you'll find the kind of technology that fits your personality. And that's the wonderful thing about Analogue.
If you're lucky.
If you look long enough. Yeah.
Some people don't look. That's sort of the problem.
And I think that's what it really kind of comes down to as we continue to explore and try to find what suits the message that we're trying to convey. The thing that makes us most fluent, whenever it comes down to our own level of personal expression, we find the tools that fit what we're trying to do. So if we want to use I don't know if I've ever seen NASCAR, but I know what you're talking about. But if you want to use that analogy, if everybody has a small box with a hole in it that emits light somehow, then we all kind of configure that thing to fit whatever it is we want to try to communicate.
Have analog technology affected your work and your processes?
Well, I've been shooting for many years wet plate collodion photography, and the hand is very present because it's a handmade image. You know, you take how many people know what wet plate collodion is here? So quite a few of you. So, you know, the idea for me with wet plate, it started with, first of all, finding old lenses, wanting to use them for what they were meant to be used for, film disappearing, worrying about that, getting to the darkroom in a particular way, making my own negatives, so wet plate collodion allows me to do that. Since these are handmade photographs, you're never going to get away from mistakes, from artifacts. So that's presented, the hand is presented in the image making. It's basically a plate you pour chemical on it, you sensitize it in silver, you take it out, put it into a camera, take the exposure, take it out, develop it by hand. Every part of the process, a hand is present. Even in mixing your own chemicals. You're mixing your own chemicals, you're cutting your own plates, you're modifying cameras to fit this old process. And then the beyond for me is to have a part of myself that's looking forward. It's not looking backwards. It's looking backwards to look forward. The idea that I'm not trying to make a Civil War picture, which is when this process was used. I'm really using it for my own expression. I do mostly portraiture, and I really want to make that image have this sensibility of now, not of the past. So that's where my personal vision comes out, is to have this modern expression with a 19th century process that I made. And there's something wonderful about having something you hold in your hand that you made. And you can look at it, you can share it, and it'll probably outlive us. It's very archival, and that's a large aspect of it. So there's no getting away from the aspect of craft and hand in that kind of imagery. And that's true with most of the processes, whether they be a capture process like daguerreotype, or paper negative, or even film. Then the printing processes of platinum or carbon or cyanotype or Van Dyke or many, many others. There's always the element of the hand. You're brushing the chemicals onto the paper. There's a tactile quality of it. And I think that's what drew me to these processes, was this idea that I'm making it. I am, first of all, completely out of control. And then as you learn the process, you have this illusion of being in control. And then working on it and never being satisfied. So there's the element of craft, the element of process, the element of expression, the element of art. And, you know, it's an ongoing thing. And the hand is always present through the entire process.
I wonder if it's something that Birgit said, how the reason that you chose digital is because, analog is because digital is so available. Can you expand on that a little bit? You know, let's talk about the availability of digital versus what I guess you could say is the less availability or unavailability, or, you know.
Well, my first introduction into photography was analog when my parents gave me like a point and shoot, but that was very briefly. And then I was in a generation where I had photography in school, but it was all digital. And basically what I learned about photography was the technique, like how you take the photo, and then hours at Photoshop. And while I still enjoyed shooting, it didn't feel exciting for me. And then after that, everybody had a digital camera, DSLR, really good cameras. And then now it's even further. We all have actually great cameras on our phones. And it's just becoming, for me personally, less and less interesting. And and then also like Instagram, like it seemed so cool in the beginning when you had all these filters and you could like do stuff, but then at the end of the day, it's always the same thing, and you feel like, oh, this is cool if I could achieve this this result of the photo, but how you start to wonder, like, how do I do that, or where does it come from? And then you, at some point along that way, you get into film and start like questioning the medium. And I think it's just knowing that everyone that can take great photos, if you have the eye for it, you want to do more. You start thinking about the process, as Geoffrey said too. I think it's, at the end of the day, I shoot film for a different reason than a lot of my classmates who stayed with digital, because I don't shoot for the end result. I shoot for the whole process of it. I shoot for that feeling of releasing the shutter and not knowing what I get, for this waiting period, and that it's a slow process, and that at the end of the day, also, that was mentioned before, you do everything yourself, and there are so many moments where you can mess up and fail, and that when you get your photos back, you're way prouder of them because you had so many chances to fail, and you do a lot of times, as opposed to
failure is good, by the way, in photography.
Happy
I
mistakes.
highly recommend it.